This is Westwood City, and we're going to change this huge green space into this in today's episode. I will guide you through step by step how I did this and how we increased the population by 40,000 in no time. So we're starting with the first bit over here. This is the first segment where I tried a brand new camera technique that just kind of worked a little bit. More about that in a second. But the overall target of this segment of the video was to set sails for the huge area we want to cover. So there is a central tram connection that is acting like the main hub for further tram connections into the suburbs. This one is moving forth and back all the time, which is equally, our tram connection is equally the camera used for this bit of the video. It's a little bit jagged and a little bit weird because of the constant lane changing that I didn't count into my calculations. So that is a little bit of an issue here. I will improve this for the future. I have some very good ideas how to do some very smooth camera techniques. If you ask yourself, why the hell is this dude just not using the in-game camera tool? Well, I can tell you, it takes up to 3 hours. 3 hours. This is sped up by a lot, and it takes up to 3 hours until a region like that is fully grown and I can continue building because everything is set and developed and every square has been filled. You can see still there are squares every now and then being filled here, and so the in-game camera option is only for like I think 5 or 10 minutes is the maximum, so I would need to go back to the computer every 10 minutes to reset the camera, and that is just kind of super annoying. However, this would actually work a lot better if you reduce the amount of stations and make sure that you only have like a one-way tram road so that they don't need to change lanes anyways. Let's go into the next bit of the video. This time around, I'm first of all setting up a little river in the middle, which won't even be filled at the end of the episode entirely. It takes also a long time until the water moves there, but it looks pretty cool in some following little speed time lapses. You will see how the water flows in and it looks super mesmerizing and satisfying. Honestly, I just watched that a couple of times because it looks so good. But yeah, setting up the river was also very important for me to make sure that we have all the traffic connections that cross the river every now and then in place. And also I wanted to put a university in, since our city did not have one yet. I wanted to make like a huge university facility, which is also the central element of focus for this suburban area where all the students go, and we've got some low residential areas around, but also a lot of commercial areas, and I imagine this would be very much where students would love to live because like it's such a very cool and unique area to be in. We also will have like a huge tower over here that is going to be like a bit of a tourism attraction, and yeah, making sure that there are a lot of sports facilities around too, and just making sure that also it looks nice with having some parks around here and like a flowing little road going around, just making sure it's not always looking also boring, you know, making sure everything looks like somewhat well integrated, and also making sure we have some parking facilities, and like a little park in the back is also planned. As you can see, it will be here in a bit. And yeah, I also wanted to make sure that everything is alongside the river, because that is something I imagine just looking a lot better, you know, making sure that this is a very neat little suburban area where people want to go, and it just kind of looks nice in the overall city's phase, I want to call it. This how the city looks from a distance, and just what you can see flying over it, for example, and having this university district as something that people would love to go when they already see that before going there actually. So really cool, and I'm very happy how it all turns out. It looks a lot better after, you know, every tree has grown, and just in general in this game, something I do love to see in the future is an option to have all the trees grown from putting them down, or like get an option. I know there's a mod for it already, but just maybe get this vanilla in the game. Something I also recommend doing for you guys if you want to build in this game, and with the limited amount of stuff we have at this point, it's very important to use those things we have to the maximum. So whenever you build parks, make sure that you use the terrain tool to get some variations in there. Also, not only in terms of the height elevations, but also it changes the texture automatically by having these height elevations. And since we do not have a surface painter, it is very important to use the tricks to make sure that you know, at least the terrain looks a bit different. Now we are back in one of these mesmerizing time lapses. I don't know about you guys, but I love these things. Just looking at later on how everything plops up and gets in. You can also see to the left hand side I put in like a huge farmland area, which was really cool to build because they do offer quite a lot of jobs. So if you struggle to meet the demand of industrial zones, you can really use them. If you look to the top of your picture, you can see there is another industrial zone, but it's not even used at this point because the industrial zone covered by the farmland on the left hand side is enough to offer jobs for all the people. There's also like a huge traffic jam forming up because everyone wants to go in this new area. So yeah, it's quite a stretch, but you can see how much it is growing, and I loved seeing that. The demand was still insane, and I still needed to ensure that there is a good connection to the main city. To the bottom right, you can see there's a little train station I set into place. There's also a subway connection, and you can also follow the tram line. If you look to the top picture, top right, this is the segment we built first in today's video. Now there's a bit of a change of water over here, and in a second you will see the river water flowing in, by the way. Just keep your eyes peeled to the right hand side of the screen. But if you look again, if I can guide you back to the top part of the image to the right hand side where there's a lot of forest, this is the segment we built first in today's video, and this is from where the tram track is going. You can follow the central spline, and then it goes left to over the little a highway connection there, and then goes back into this left-hand side suburban area. In the center there's like a little triangle in which there is a lower down station with a little bit of a park, and then from there it goes underneath the ground and emerges back up to the normal surface when you're meeting the university part, which is now sitting very much the center of this area. And yet again, I really like how this is all growing. At this point, you can see the biggest change you can follow is the water flowing in from the right hand side. The river is slowly filling in, and the rest of this area is slowly growing. You can see the traffic trying to find its way. I must say though that even after my traffic tests and a lot of improvements I did in this build, I still can't get over how weird the traffic is in this game. Honestly, I think the biggest issue I have at this point is how stupid the AI is to find the right lanes. Like, they're always using the right lanes no matter where they want to go. They're always sticking to the right hand side, and this is super annoying, to be honest, because you offer them like a 4-way highway, and then they're only using the right hand side, which is so stupid, to be honest, because why wouldn't they go to the left if they know that they stick to the left and want to go straight up? So yeah, that causes always a lot of traffic issues. And I was trying to lay out the roads and the public transport over here in order to maximize the effect, but I figured it's not enough, and so I needed to take action to keep the growth coming in, and this is what we did over here. I kind of made sure that I checked where most of the traffic was guided, and so I decided to build a little bit of an increased area for our people to live in, and you will see in a second that exactly this happened, and I am relatively happy with the outcome, to be honest, because this area will grow very nicely later on. There are 2 more mesmerizing time lapses just to keep you informed about the following part of the video, but this was mainly done so I could have another highway connection. I struggled quite a bit to get it in, so at some point I'll cut this because it was a bit of an annoying part to do. I just wanted to ensure that we have like a nice connection that goes into this roundabout here, but yeah, I struggled a lot until I found the right way of doing it. It looks kind of okay at the end. First of all, I made like a little tunnel over here, guiding the tunnel into the highway, into the roundabout. That was the easier part, to be honest, and from now on I try to get in. I have one issue with the game at this point, and whenever I can build like a segment, at some point I'm not able to delete the segment again, which is a bit of a weird one. As you can see over here, it just tells me that I can't delete it. I needed to get rid of the railroad first, even though I didn't touch the railroad at all. So that was a bit of a struggle, and this is why I need anarchy, and why I need I do need road anarchy, and I do need, and this is the most important bit over here, move it. Because as much as I love the new way of building roads, it's super improved, but pair it with the power of move it, and I think building roads will be no issue whatsoever anymore. And I'm really looking forward to this state. If this is the thing, man, I'll be so happy. So yeah, as you can see over here, I was already pretty happy with this connection, but then I figured, hey, wait a sec, there was one thing missing. We need to get the people back onto the right hand side, and I'll spare that out for you because this took an age until I made this work. It looks kind of good at the end, but oh my god, it was so much struggle. Sometimes I'm just being stupid. So yeah, we are back into filling in the last gaps to make this really 40k. At this point, we only increased by like 30k or something, and I needed to make sure that we get even more space in. As you can see, all the taxis and stuff over here. I decided to change up this intersection really quickly. Because there was the problem that they were always taking the left and right hand side lane, and so I decided to give them 2 roundabouts to both sides and then made sure that they're not allowed to go left, so that they only need to go back to the roundabout to change the direction if you want to go left. And I think this worked out pretty well. It looked pretty decent at the end. And yeah, as you can see, this is where the lower section is of the tram. I also would love to see some more variants of the tram station. At this point, the tram station is always like this. It's basically like a bus station. You always have this little sign there. You don't even have the option to have like a little house as you have with the buses, at least. The tram station is always like a little bit of a, I don't know, weird thing. And I really would love to see an improvement on that, and so I can change. And I also want to have elevated stations, and here you go. As I promised, another mesmerizing little time lapse over here. The river is starting to creep in even more, and I wanted to make sure that these little residential suburbs I have look a little bit more organic. You know, we've all these like huge squares in the center, which is typically American, but I also wanted to make sure that we have some smaller areas, which could also be some areas for more rich people that have like a bit of a weirder layout of their real estate, and then so a bit more, you know, they just have a bit more land available to build whatever they want to build. And so I decided to break the mood a little bit with some more organic stuff, which I think worked out pretty well. And you can see how this area now is starting to fill in nicely. We still have a couple of gaps in between these bigger rasters I made, which is intentional because I always looked into what we will still need, and then I started to change up the zoning a little bit. This is what happens right now on screen. There is still such a huge demand for commercials, and I was like, okay, you know what, I'm just going to change up a couple of areas into commercial demand then, and I increased some of the suburban residential, low-res residential areas into row houses to house at least a couple more people, if that makes sense, because there was still the problem that we have still a high demand for people living in this region. So yeah, it's increasing a lot, and I think the next step will be to increase Westwood to the other side of the central city, and I think we won't get around making the central city even bigger and changing the traffic even more. But before we do so, it is also important to finish up this region, and so I decided to fill in even more of the gaps. As you can tell over here, I added another area, another suburban area, to get in even more residentials and to get even more low-res people in that, grab all the jobs available. And I think it's so mesmerizing to see everything growing at such a speed, and then the water creeping in slower and the river starting to form up. I really would love to see this being a little bit quicker, to be honest. It almost is taking longer than the growth of trees. You can see how much the trees already grew around our riverside in general, and also the park in the university area looks fine now. In general, I like the university area quite a lot. It looks really fantastic, and I like the fact how everything is growing. And I must admit that I wasn't really expecting this, but the public transport I did set up works bonkers. It works so well. I do have this main hub to the right hand side of the screen. You can't really tell at this point, but the right hand side there's like a bit of a park area, and in this area there's like a little bit of an area where the trams are diverted into the main city, and this is how it looks finally. A final flyover from the central area into our brand new suburban Westwood area. I love how it turns out. I think it looks super organic in a way. I mean, as organic as an American city can look, you know what I mean? I also did use a couple of roundabouts, more than you usually would see, but they at least work for a certain amount of traffic quite nicely. And next up we'll be filling even more gaps and making sure the rest is also built nicely. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed. And if you haven't subbed to the channel and you want to see more of this stuff in the future, make sure to do so. And I'll talk to you in the next one.